Hello, this is Angel Arts, and I just wanted to remind all of you that we have a little more than 2 weeks left before auditions for my next tabletop campaign, the Mass Effect Season 2 campaign. Auditions are due. Again, all auditions are due on April 22nd, and I just wanted to give a few tips on auditioning if you haven't auditioned already. So one thing that I wanted to point out is that if you're going to propose a character or offer up a character that has already been represented in my previous campaign, such as a human or a Taurian or a Quarian, the bar for those specific types of characters are going to be a heck of a lot higher than if you were to select, for example, a character of a race that has not been represented yet, like a Volus or a Geth or a Drell, and then I'm talking specifically about PCs that haven't been represented by those races. I am, for example, dying. It would be amazing if we were able to have a Vorcha or a Batarian in the roster, just because they are such uncommon characters in the first place. And even though those characters have classically been painted as, shady or villainous, it'd be really neat to be able to see, a heroic Vorcha or a heroic Batarian, for example. See, that's the kind of characters that I think would really intrigue me and excite me and make me really want to explore their stories. There is one question about racial availability that I'm actually a little surprised that a lot of people haven't asked me about, and I think it's kind of an obvious, in my opinion, kind of an obvious thing to ask. But I don't want to give away too much because, I wanted to leave it up to you guys to figure out which race or races I'm talking about that I think is the obvious one to ask me about in terms of availability. Because just because the race does not appear in the Mass Effect 5th edition, and they've made many of the races available in 5th edition, but just because they don't appear as available races in the 5th edition doesn't mean you can't choose a character of that race, because we can always try to homebrew it as much as possible. But I will leave it up to that. The fact that Jeff last time decided that he wanted to be a Hanar, almost, not exactly, but almost made him an immediate, gave him an immediate spot on the roster almost, simply because his character choice was just that unique. And that's what I'm really looking for. I'm looking for characters that are really unique and creative. And that's not to say that you can't have a strong character that happens to be Quarian or happens to be Taurian or happens to be human. That's not, or happens to be Asari. That's not to say you can't. It's just if you do, then you really need to dig deep into something about the character conceptually that really sets them apart from some of the more quote-unquote cookie-cutter versions of that character. This is one of the reasons why it was easy to choose Elias over some of the other Quarians in Season 1, because Elias was not your stereotypical techie Quarian. Now, he was techie, but the main premise of his character was that he was a singer, he was a performer, he was an entertainer, which is very different from your run-of-the-mill techie Quarians. And that's not, again, to say that the techie Quarians that we did have appear on the Mass Effect campaign wasn't interesting. It's just Matt's character, Elias' character, just jumped out at me almost immediately because his character was so unique and so different. So those are the kind of things that really helps make your characters stand out. And with that, I'm also going to say that just because you audition with a specific character concept does not mean that you actually have to use that character in the campaign. The original auditions are mostly for me to get a feel for you as a person and a feel for your original creative juices that are flowing as far as characters go. So, I'm not at all implying that anyone who's already auditioned so far hasn't had great character concepts. But if you feel that your character concept could be improved, if you feel that you could come up with a slightly more interesting or unique character than the one that you've proposed, you're always welcome to, propose a different one for the actual campaign itself. So just keep that in mind. But thank you again so much. Remember, April 22nd, that is a Sunday. That is the final deadline to get all of your auditions in. And I'm looking forward to see how things pan out with the rest of this whole process. So until next time, everybody, love yourselves and love each other.